Welcome to this Roll for Crit review. Today, we try to unravel the secrets of what is Escape Tales: The Awakening from Board and Dice Games. This game is sort of an escape room, but instead of a timer, you're going to have actions, and hopefully you'll make it to the end of the story before it's too late.
You also won't actually have to go to a room. Everything is self-contained on this board and these cards. The story of the game is you are a guy named Sam. You're a father whose wife has passed away, and your daughter is in a coma, basically. And in order to try to wake her up, you have decided to undergo a mysterious ritual, you know, because you're a concerned parent. And so the game takes place in this sort of unusual dream world for the most part, trying to piece together these different puzzles to find your way out and try to save your daughter. You're going to be using this book that'll tell you at certain times to read certain passages, and each one will relate to whatever you're doing in the game. So there's a heavy story element involved. But the way you actually play is you'll enter a location made up of 2 location cards from this deck, and you're going to have a certain number of action tokens. And this card shows you which of those spots you can explore and where they are located in the storybook. So for instance, maybe you wanted to check out what this safe was doing here, because that seems like a thing in an escape room game that you want to try to open up. So you take a look, where is that over here? Okay, it's under B2. You know, they're conveniently labeled, and that tells you to look at paragraph 51 in the book. So you would read that, and eventually it would tell you to take certain cards from this deck. So in this case, you would get to see the safe itself, and you can see there's actually some kind of a clue here to a combination code that presumably will open that safe.
In addition, what's important is the symbol in the corner here, because that will refer strictly to this puzzle. And if you use the app, which you have to put in your answers, you can click on that symbol, wherever it is, and first off, you can put in an answer and you won't get punished, which is very nice if you're worried about that for some other games. And you can tell you how many cards you need to solve it. So, I mean, that's sort of a hint, but I don't think it was too bad. It's sort of nice that if you need to know, like, oh, I need 3 cards, I'm not even going to look at this right now.
Right. For instance, by exploring the rest of the room, you might find this card over here, and you can see because they share the same symbol, these are related. So sometimes, yeah, like you said, it's up to you if you want to figure that out for yourself, or sometimes you're just like, look, I just want to know, is it even possible for me to solve this yet?
There are hints there as well, which once again, don't penalize you. This game seems to be much more, I think, rewarding to players when it comes to finding hints, at least not in the sense that you don't feel guilty for one small mistake.
Yeah, the place where there may be consequences comes again to these action point tokens, because you only have so many.
Yes.
And once you've explored a certain amount, you're out of them, unless you find more through a puzzle. You're out of luck unless you go through this Doom deck.
Yes. So you will flip over the card, and it has some fun flavor text for you to read, and then we'll give you usually some more tokens, maybe less or more depending on some other stuff you find.
Yeah, and presumably the more you do this, though, the potentially scarier some of those effects may be. So you don't want to be relying on this too much.
Right. And throughout the game, you may come across things such as this card, which you will actually have to make a choice. In this case, it's choosing of which item you want to take, which is the bear and crayon. This is all first scenario, so nothing too spoilery yet. And you notice they have symbols on them, these sort of brown symbols, unlike the red ones. Those will actually be referred to later by cards. They may say, if you have this symbol, go to this paragraph. If not, go to this paragraph. Or for every symbol you have, maybe you get rewarded or punished. So very important to keep an eye on those things.
So you keep going through the game, you keep solving puzzles, and eventually it will say, you found an exit. And you can either stay in the room and maybe try to solve some puzzles, because not all of them are mandatory.
Well, not only that, some of them, maybe you find something for a puzzle that's not in that room.
Yeah.
It could be for later on.
It could be connected to something else, so it's up to you how much you want to do to try to find everything. Then you can move on, they'll tell you new locations, you keep going until the story ends.
More like reading a book, I feel. Because instead of having a timer where you're like, I don't care, I just got to solve this before the timer goes out, it's all action, so you can take your time.
Yeah.
And with the puzzles, I think there were some very creative puzzles in there. I really enjoyed that. Had to, at first, you know, really scratching my head, even though I knew, like, if I had all the cards, I was still thinking, like, okay, how does this work without giving away too many hints of the kind of puzzle? There's a wide variety.
Yeah, I mean, every time we've talked about escape room games, I know I always say how I do not like the time limit. I really don't. I hate real escape rooms for that reason, because there's no option to just keep going. They kick you out. And I like to take my time and try to figure something out. I don't want to be told the answer just because I ran out of an arbitrary time limit. So I think that aspect is great because, like you said, I'm stuck on this puzzle. You can put it away. It's pretty easy to save your game, so to speak.
It does have I think a method in there it reads.
Right, so you can figure out where you were last time, etc. Although I will say, if you take too long in between sessions, I basically played through the whole thing in about 2 sessions, and I remember the second time being like, I don't remember what I was trying to do in this room or what these puzzles were.
I pretty much, because I did a little bit each day, I don't think that became an issue for me when I, at least for my first playthrough.
But I will say this system, at times I think it's kind of necessary, because I think you do have to have some kind of a consequence system.
No, you're absolutely right. But the difference is with a time setting, because of like when we play Unlock or something, we're just like, I don't know what's going on. Sure, we're in a pyramid or something. I don't know. We're just, how do you solve this puzzle? But because of this style, because you can think of like, should I look here? Like, there are sometimes something, if you put it here, it'll just be like, it's scribbles on the wall that mean nothing. Like, it's a dead end. But because you can take your time, you can look and think like, all right, I know I'm looking for a heavy object to break something. Oh, there's hammers over there. That's where I need to look.
Yeah,
there's a bit more, I think, with the placing, so you can think more. So, and the other nice thing is, because there's no time either, the story can be much more flavorful and important throughout the different puzzles.
I think for me, I found this just a little, like, I really did not like when I hit a dead end, because I felt like it was punishing me for exploring, and I felt bad because I basically, usually I found the flavor text they gave if it was a dead end wasn't that good enough to make up for the fact that I'm now out a thing. And I think also maybe some people are okay with that, but I'm the kind of person who, I want to solve every puzzle. I want to find everything the game has to offer. So if I feel like, oh, there's something I'm missing, I'm going to feel bad about it. And I will say, for people who are first starting to play, the Doom cards I found aren't as punishing as you may think they are.
They're a bit more flavor, if anything.
Yeah, some of them aren't great, but I wish the game was a little, and maybe this is part of the unraveling and you experience it firsthand, but I wish it was a little more upfront. I wish I had known ahead of time, like, I can make mistakes and I can go through here if I need to, and there are riddles that reward you with more of these if you solve them correctly. So I feel kind of mixed about that system, because I think you need something.
No, I know where you're coming from.
But it did frustrate me at times.
But what I found interesting for me was actually, I found a lot of, my exploring was actually usually rewarded.
So maybe you were just better at looking at things than I was.
I guess with the way it's, and because that, a lot of them gave me pawns, and what happens is, besides the first scenario, you can carry these over. So there's a lot more times where I'm like, oh, I can, I'll have 2 more now for the next round for exploring or something.
And I like that too, but I do.
But I know where you're coming from, because there were a couple times when I did hit a dead end or something, I'm like, really? That's a dead end?
Right. It's like, that looks like a puzzle. And sometimes also I felt like I would go out of my way to solve a puzzle, and the result was that in the next room it rewarded me with more action tokens. So I kind of felt like, well, so if I just hadn't done that puzzle, the net result would be the same, because I wouldn't have spent the tokens to get to that puzzle.
I noticed that, but usually the net result was like 1 instead of 2. But I still, for me, like, honestly, 1 more could make a difference.
My suggestion, I mean, because this is, it's a game, you can do whatever you want. If that's not something that you're into, I would say just explore everything. Like, you just ignore these, honestly. It doesn't really, because you're still, the real draw of it is still these puzzles, and that has nothing to do with
I'm surprised, because I feel like usually that's my line, when you're like, no, we have to go through the puzzle the way they want it.
I just didn't think the system is that well done.
What did you think of the story?
I thought it was okay. I think it's a little bit, I thought there were some parts that are, Not always super clear about exactly what's happening. Like I said, a lot of it is in this kind of other dimension. So they kind of play around with, there's, spirits and other voices and faces that don't make sense. So I thought it was interesting enough that but I can't say that I was like invested in the fate of my daughter or anything like that.
I enjoyed it all the way up to the end. I don't want to spoil too much. Pretty much I played one. And the way it was worded made it sound like there was a better ending. And then I played again, in which I didn't get a very good ending. And throughout the book, then I pretty much, because I wanted to know the rest, especially for this review. Mm-hmm. And I do think it has potential with the way this is done. And I don't want to describe what the other endings are and stuff. But one of the things I know, a small thing, I don't know if you noticed this, but it looks like this is part of the book. So if there's other escape tales, you actually will lay out and make a book.
Huh, that could be cool. Yeah, I mean, clearly, based on the subtitle, they're planning on more entries in this game series, which I would definitely be up for. I mean, I think that the system of how the first time you look at the cards and see, oh, this is a room and how you explore it, I think that's a very cool idea, and it really does a good job of simulating an escape room in this format. So I think that's really cool. Overall, the way they did it is awesome. This system frustrated me a little bit, and I didn't really love the story, but really what I cared about was the puzzles, and I did think that most of them were really well done, and there's also a lot of different kinds of puzzles, so I definitely really enjoyed my experience with the game at the end of the day. Here are our crits and misses for Escape Tales: The Awakening. Crits. The game uses a clever system to recreate the feeling of being in a real escape room. The way it depicts a location on the cards, the way you find riddles and actually can use items with the app, gives you the sense of solving puzzles that are physical things and not just images. Throughout the course of the game, you'll receive cards that may impact later riddles or choices, leading to a larger sense that the game story is actually connected, and certain things may be more important than they seem when you first get them.
Discovering a piece for a puzzle that's actually in the later part of the game will feel much more rewarding, because you feel like the exploration you did led up to something.
The app includes a hint system in case you get stuck on something. It also can let you know how many cards you actually need to solve a riddle, and there is no timer throughout the game, so in general, it is not very punishing, and you're free to take your time and explore at your own pace.
Many of these escape room or locked room games will punish you for taking a hint or too much time or getting an answer wrong, so this could be sort of a breath of fresh air if you like taking your time and feel bad when you were off by one digit.
There is a large variety of different kinds of puzzles, so if you're more of a math-oriented person or you like dealing with colors and shapes and symbols, you will find plenty to offer as you go through the game.
Misses. Escape rooms tend to have a way to punish you. Usually it's the timer, but in this case it's the action point system. This punishes you if you tend to explore in a wrong area, which can be a little saddening and disappointing because usually a locked room or escape room rewards you for exploring everything.
If you're someone like me, who part of the joy of these games is looking through every single nook and cranny and finding everything they have to offer, it can just be a bit frustrating to run into a dead end and be punished for it.
It was fun to be able to actually enjoy a story going through this locked room experience, but we found the story a little bit lacking in both the total context and the endings.
There were some cool concepts in there, and it was more than a lot of other escape room games give you to pull yourself along, but it still doesn't exactly stand up as a truly memorable story with very interesting characters, in my opinion.
I still had a blast going through this. The puzzles, I think compared to some of the other escape room games we've played, weren't nearly as rewarding as this. I enjoyed every puzzle I came across here. Maybe it's because I didn't feel like I was punished for putting in something wrong, and maybe analysis paralysis there. Mm-hmm. And the story, while we had some hits and misses, I think it sounded like between us, you maybe a little bit more, I like the idea of it, and this system I think is so cool. I know already I wish they could do Gravity Falls. I think right off the bat would be perfect for this, but that also involves a book full of mysteries. And I just love you go into rooms, and the idea of using choices too I think could be used really well. I think mechanically it's very sound.
Yeah, I think it's a great system. You know, the story I didn't think was great, but it also didn't detract from my experience. It was just kind of a little thing that was in there as a little kind of Easter egg. I definitely, once you sit down with it, and we both played it solo.
Yes, we should mention that.
You could play it with multiple players, but I did think just by myself, and with another person or two, I think you could enjoy it, you know, discussing the puzzles, but there was something I liked about doing it alone and just feeling like, because you are one character in the story, so it is a little bit more immersive, I think.
Well, I think also it's better single player because usually when you have some of those other ones, you want more people because if you put one answer wrong, you lose 5 minutes. So you want everyone to take their viewpoint to make sure we don't mess this up. But this, you know, you can take your time. So this way, you can solve the puzzles and you can feel good about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say one other thing, which is a very small critique, but if they made this board so it folded in half, you could fit this game in a box half the size. That's the only thing.
Well, I do think part of that is because
but still, you could unfold it and do the same thing. You know what I mean? Like that's the only reason that justifies that box. It's really, there's not that much in it. But I think that's also to the game's credit that with just this deck of cards, it makes you feel like you're really going through a lot of different places. So
yeah, so even if you aren't as big on stories or stuff, or maybe you would agree with us and like the story, I still think it was a fun ride and finding everything. And as you said, if you really do hate this system, unlike I guess the timer too, but usually the app tells you you're terrible. Or we even played one system where because the timer went out, we didn't know it wouldn't let us hit a puzzle. So if you're guaranteed to be able to have the fun and explore everything you need, while even pretending with the story that you are doing it in the right way.
Yeah, if you like escape rooms, if you like any of those games, like the Exit series or Unlock, then there's no reason that you shouldn't buy this game.
Yeah, arguably, if you don't have any of them, I think this might be one of my first picks for choice because I love the system so much, and the puzzles definitely were some of my favorites I've come across.
So it's called Escape Tales: The Awakening. We'll see if they come out with future entries down the line, but right now this is the only one. So it is available. Let us know in the comments if you've played it, if you've had issues with the story, the endings, if there are any puzzles that you got stuck on and you needed to use a hint for, or if you want to ask us for help. Maybe we can help you out with something.
Of course, comment right down below, but there's Instagram, Facebook. Our site has a nice little place to comment. We really don't suggest doing a weird ritual to try and contact us. Last time, the people got the bizarro versions of us. Didn't end up very well.
Actually, I hear they're more fun than we are. They get invited to a lot of parties.
That's true.
Anyway, this has been our review. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this is Roll for Crit.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more board game content. Every little bit helps.
Please, we gotta eat.